Hi there. So let's get into Luke chapter 15. This begins his parables, and there's lots of them in here. These parables are stories. He separates parables from what actually happened. These are parables are just stories to teach. And we jump over there, and we'll begin. Parable of the lost sheep. Tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus teach. You like that? Notorious sinners. This made the Pharisees and teachers of religious law complain that he was associating with such sinful people, even eating with them. Jesus told them this story. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness and go to search for the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. When he arrives, he will call together his friends and neighbors, saying, "Rejoice with me, because I have found my lost sheep." In the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than other 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. Wow. Now this, verse 7, I've seen in my life, and sometimes not really complained about it, but makes you feel, like the prodigal son's brother. I've always been here. We'll read that again. Luke 15:7. In the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. And notice it says returns to God there. That's interesting. Hey, parable of the lost coin. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and sweep the entire house and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she will call her friends and neighbors and say, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin." In the same way, there is joy in the presence of God's angels when even one sinner repents. I like that. There's lots of songs that talk like that. There's joy in the presence of God's angels when one sinner repents. Another one, parable of the lost son. To illustrate the point further, Jesus told them this story. A man had 2 sons. The younger son told his father, "I want my share of your estate now before you die." So his father agreed to divide his wealth between his sons. A few days later, this younger son packed up his belongings and moved to a distant land. And there he wasted all his money in wild living. About the time his money ran out, a great famine swept over the land, and he began to starve. He persuaded a local farmer to hire him, and the man sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. Now, Jewish people hated pigs. They were unclean. They didn't want to be anywhere around them, so there is no job lower than this job. Okay? The young man became so hungry that even the pods he was feeding the pigs looked good to him, but no one gave him anything. When he finally came to his senses, he said to himself, "At home, even the hired servants have enough food to spare, and here I am dying of hunger. I will go home to my father and say, 'Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Please take me on as a hired servant.'" So he returned home to his father, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. Now this is very important, where it says he ran to his son. Okay? The reason this is reiterated, and it shows how happy the father was. This is just a story, but in traditional culture, men like this who ran things, or who were in charge over large farms and had lots of servants and stuff, basically a rich man, they don't run, okay? They never run. They walk everywhere proudly. And when it says, filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son. People listening to the story at the time would have said, "Wow, he ran. Wow, those people don't run. They never run." So that's important. He ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. His son said to him, like he rehearsed, "Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy to be being called your son." But his father said to the servants, "Quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Get a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet, and kill the calf we have been fattening. We must celebrate with a feast, for this son of mine was dead and is now returned to life. He was lost, but now he is found." So the party began. Well, that's the same way that they feel about a sinner that comes back. Okay? And here's me. Meanwhile, the older son was in the fields working. When he returned home, he heard the music and dancing in the house, and he asked one of the servants what was going on. "Your brother is back," he was told, "and your father has killed the fattened calf. We are celebrating because of his safe return." The older brother was angry and wouldn't go in. His father came out and begged him, but he replied, "All these years I have slaved for you and never once refused to do a single thing you told me. And in all that time you never even gave me one young goat for a feast with my friends. Yet when this son of yours comes back after squandering your money on prostitutes, you celebrate by killing the fattened calf." His father said to him, "Look, dear son, you have always stayed with me, and everything I have is yours. We had to celebrate this happy day, for your brother was dead and has come back to life. He was lost, but now he is found." Yeah. That was the parable of the prodigal son, probably one of the most famous parables in the Bible. And this part I take comfort in, because often I have felt like the prodigal son's brother. I mean, I got saved when I was 5, and I've always followed the Lord and always done what He said. And it kind of makes you, you see these people that are about squandering stuff and drugs and girlfriends and sleeping around, and even today they get huge celebrations and have these testimonies all over, and they're on TV and everything, and but you got to look at that part where God says to you, the one who's always been there, "Look, dear son, you have always stayed by me, and everything I have is yours." Everything I have is yours. Okay? This is just a story, what'll happen to the prodigal son, because everything the guy has belongs to the other son. But yeah, who knows? It's just a story to reiterate the fact that people were mad at him because he was hanging out with lowlifes and stuff. When he said before, it's not the healthy who need a doctor, it's the sick, and I come to call the sinners. So, yeah, that was Luke 5. Let's go on to Luke 16. There is more parables. Jesus told this story to his disciples. There was a certain rich man who had a manager handling his affairs. One day a report came to the manager that the manager was wasting his employer's money. So the employer called him in and said, "What is this I hear about you? Get your report in order, because you are going to be fired." The manager thought to himself, "Now what? My boss has fired me. I don't have the strength to dig ditches, and I'm too proud to beg. I know how to ensure that I'll have plenty of friends who will give me a home when I'm fired." So he invited each person who owed money to his employer to come and discuss the situation. He asked the first one, "How much do you owe him?" The man replied, "I owe him 800 gallons of olive oil." So the manager told him, "Take the bill and quickly change it to 400 gallons. "And how much do you owe my employer?" he asked the next man. "I owe him 1,000 bushels of wheat," was the reply. Here the manager said, "Take the bill and change it to 800. The rich man had to admire the dishonest rascal for being so shrewd. And it is true that the children of this world are more shrewd in dealing with the world around them than are the children of the light. That's a good one. Here's the lesson. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then, when your possessions are gone, they will welcome you to an eternal home. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. That's interesting. Yeah. Then when your possessions are gone, they will welcome you to an eternal home. What is that eternal home? Interesting. If you are faithful in the little things, you will be faithful in large ones. But if you are dishonest in little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities. And if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches of heaven? And if you are not faithful with other people's things, why should you be trusted with things of your own? Well, no one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. That's a great way of putting it. The Pharisees, who dearly loved their money, heard all this and scoffed at him. Dearly love their money. Don't you love that? We'll make that pink. Then he said to them, you like to appear righteous in public, but God knows your hearts. What this world honors is detestable in the sight of God. That's a good one. What this world honors is detestable in the sight of God. Until John the Baptist, the law of Moses and the messages of the prophets were your guides, but now the good news of the kingdom of God is preached, and everyone is eager to get in. But that doesn't mean that the law has lost its force. It is easier for heaven and earth to disappear than for the smallest point of God's law to be overturned. For example, a man who divorces his wife and marries someone else commits adultery, and anyone who marries a woman divorced from her husband commits adultery. Now there are exceptions to this that he discusses later. But just to leave someone, a Christian marriage, to marry somebody else, that's committing adultery. Jesus said, this is another parable. There was a certain rich man who was splendidly clothed in purple and fine linen, who lived each day in luxury. At his gate lay a poor man named Lazarus, who was covered with sores. As Lazarus lay there longing for scraps from the rich man's table, the dogs would come and lick his open sores. Finally, the poor man died and was carried by the angels to sit beside Abraham at the heavenly banquet. The rich man also died and was buried, and he went to the place of the dead. There, in torment, he saw Abraham in the far distance with Lazarus at his side. The rich man shouted, Father Abraham, have some pity. Send Lazarus over here to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue. I am in anguish in these flames. But Abraham said to him, Son, remember that during your lifetime you had everything you wanted, and Lazarus had nothing. So now he is here, being comforted, and you are in anguish. And besides, there is a great chasm separating us. No one can cross over to you from here, and no one can cross over to us from there. The rich man said, Please, Father Abraham, at least send him to my father's home, for I have 5 brothers, and I want him to warn them so they don't end up in this place of torment. But Abraham said, Moses and the prophets have warned them. Your brothers can read what they wrote. The rich man replied, No, Father Abraham, but if someone is sent to them from the dead, they will repent of their sins and turn to God. But Abraham said, If they won't listen to Moses and the prophets, they won't be persuaded, even if someone rises from the dead. Well, so there you go. Lots of parables. Okay. We'll get into Luke 17 next time. But yeah, lots of parables, lots of good stuff there. Crazy. Let's go back real quick and we'll look at our highlights. Yeah. Notorious sinners. Yeah. Tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus teach. And this made the Pharisees and people, religious law, complain he was associating with such sinful people. And Jesus tells parables just to teach these guys lessons. You know, if a man lost a sheep, leaves the 99 to find the one and rejoices when he finds the one. 15:7. In the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. Parable of the lost coin. There is joy in the presence of God's angels when even one sinner repents. That's 15:10. The parable of the prodigal son, the last one, where he ran to his son. Okay? The son of mine is dead and is now returned to life. Yeah. And the father said to the one who was always there, "Look, dear son, you have always stayed by me, and everything I have is yours." Yeah. That's my comfort right there. And the parable of the shrewd manager. And this even says in verse 8, the rich man had to admire the dishonest rascal for being so shrewd. And it is true that the children of this world are more shrewd in dealing with the world around them than are the children of the light. So the sinners and the people in this world are better at dealing with things of the world than we are. Here's a lesson. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then when your possessions are gone, they will welcome you into an eternal home. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. 16:13. What this world is 16:15. What this world honors is detestable in the sight of God. Well, so there you have it. Lots of stuff in his parables. The whole, all of Luke 15 was basically letting the higher ups and the Pharisees and the people who like to look down on people, that there is more joy in the lowest person receiving forgiveness than all of the others who never leave. So, there you have it. That was 15 and 16. Tomorrow we'll start with 17. Till then, keep reading, keep praying, pray in the Spirit. Take these lessons to heart. See you next time.